Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch for episode 41 of the Hey Everybody podcast. Howdy. I'm in a very howdy place lately. Sometimes I feel like the name of this podcast demands that I always start it the same way. But sometimes you're feeling more of a howdy or an ahoy or hey. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're having a good week so far. I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed by an ever-changing world that's not even considering how you feel about it. This message brought to you by a commercial I saw for a car that starts just when you sit down. I guess something about your butt starts the car. And I turned to my wife and I said, what do you want to bet that car gets roughly 30-something miles to the gallon? Just like it did a decade ago, and 2 decades ago, and 3 decades ago. But now it starts with your butt. Aren't you tired of your butt not doing more for you? I mean, sure, when you need to sit down, it's there for you. But does it ever lend a hand when you're trying to work one of your devices? Now it does. It's just dumb. I know it's a bad attitude to have, but it is. It's every improvement made to a car that they tell you about. I know they make safety things happen or whatever, and that's cool. But every time they really try to get your attention to tell you about a modification or an improvement, I'm just going, really? Now there's a camera in it, so you don't have to turn your fat head around. And you'll get used to not turning around when you drive in reverse. And someday the camera will malfunction and you'll run over the paperboy and somehow it'll be Toyota's fault. And now it starts with your butt. I just don't get it. I mean, it's good. If it's keeping people safe, it's good. But I always wonder if we're advancing at our own detriment or to our own detriment. Because again, we put all these things around us to make things better and safer, but also to make it so we don't have to be better and safer ourselves. And then those things fail, and what do you got? You got a whole nation of people that don't understand how a car key works and that you actually have to look backwards when you're driving backwards. Everyone's just going to be... these cars that park themselves, I think it's great that you have that kind of faith in the good people at Chevy or whatever. But every year they recall a bunch of cars because they did something wrong or they didn't catch something. But you have all these people that every day are just going to trust there's a car in front of me, a car behind me, and people all around, but I'm going to trust this button to just park this massive vehicle. And I know, I'm a Luddite or whatever. That's fine. But I do think, I was, the prime age for Jurassic Park. My dad took me to see Jurassic Park, and it so blew my mind that I realized afterwards, in trying to anticipate Jurassic Park, because I had not seen a trailer or anything, I had just heard it was a big deal, and there were dinosaurs, and me and my dad were going to go see it. And in imagining what it would be like, in my head, it was animated. Because that was the only way I could picture a moving dinosaur. So we go see Jurassic Park, blew my mind. To this day, I love these movies. Even the bad ones. I don't care. It's dinosaurs, and bring it on. But in that movie, Jeff Goldblum famously says to the scientists, you were so busy thinking about whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think whether or not you should. And that stuck with me even as a little kid. And I remember after that movie came out, there were some scientists that came out and said, we might be able to do that actually. Looking at how they made dinosaurs in the movie, that might work. We could maybe make dinosaurs. And I'm just going, did you not see the whole movie? Because the whole movie is about how you should not make dinosaurs. And these idiots, these really smart idiots, are going, oh, we could probably do that actually. Let's try that. But what stuck with me is being more concerned about the should than you are about the could. And I think more and more these days I see stuff in technology and NFTs and Bitcoin and all this stuff that like might be a good idea and it might be a bad idea and I'm not smart enough to know. But I don't see a ton of people thinking about, the ethic or the implication or just the kind of world we want to live in. An artificial intelligence made a piece of art. It's not art. And it sold at auction for millions of dollars. And that sucks. That's not the world I want to live in. And I don't think deep down that's the world anybody wants to live in. But no one's thinking about it. No one is properly Goldbluming our modern time. And they should. That's what I think. Because I don't want robots making my art. I mean, they could play a part in it. I mean, I use technology to make music, and I know they use technology to make movies and things like that, but don't paint things. It's terrible. And what's the value of it? Like, I always thought the value of art was the humanity in it. And when you totally remove the humanity, what do you have? You have a machine did this thing. Like, I don't care. I'm not that excited about it. But some people are, and whatever. I'm going to be a dumbass the rest of my life with my man-made art and my car keys and my butt that never helps me out. What else happened this week? Oh, my son lost a tooth because that's the horror of being a human being. Do you ever have everyday experiences that everybody has? Everybody has lost all their teeth. You're born with no teeth, you get some teeth, they all fall out, and then you get new teeth. And we all just accept this as a part of life. Every time it happens to my son, I'm just going like, what a weird creature the human being is. And like, I have a lot of like teeth issues as far as like, I have anxiety about it and like teeth stuff freaks me out and all this stuff. And I live with a kid who every couple months, every couple years, just pops a tooth out of his head. And I'm going, oh, cool. Good job, buddy. But we're happy for him. And the tooth fairy came and everything's great. And I'm happy to help him with that stuff. It's a good way to push myself out of my comfort zone, to prove that I care more about him than I do about my little petty terror. Other than that, we had a real good weekend. Including that, we had a real good weekend. Did more country driving and more walking through the woods and just getting away from people and shutting the phones off and listening to music. And it was good. My wife and I had a scuffle, which I'm not going to tell you about because it's not that kind of podcast. Suffice it to say, we're both human beings. And we had each made some mistakes, and then, your emotions kick in, and we had a little argument. And the only reason I say that is because sometimes my wife and I argue, or I make a mistake as a dad, and I feel everything everybody else feels when that stuff happens, but I also feel an element of like, oh, see, you're such a phony. People watch the podcast and they tell you, or they come to your show and they see you sing a 4-minute song with your son. So of course they just assume that you're like the best dad on the planet and they tell you that. And don't get me wrong, I'm a damn good dad because I try real hard. It's like one of the most important things I do. I try really, really hard to be a good dad and a good husband and not just be here while that stuff happens around me, but to really think about what I'm doing and my approach and all that kind of stuff. So I am a good dad and I'm a good husband and I'm trying to be both those things. But then you make these mistakes and you start to feel like, oh, people maybe have fooled themselves into thinking that like Christopher and Tori don't fight. They have like the perfect marriage. And I think we do have a perfect marriage, but a perfect marriage involves some arguing now and then. I often think that all my other relationships would be more successful if I was more comfortable in them and could argue with people and like express anger or hurt feelings and have them express it back and say like, well, you hurt my feelings when you said that, or you bummed me out when you said that, or you made me angry when you said that. So I have for a couple of years, I have this feeling of like, you're a fraud, you're a phony, you're letting people think that you're this great husband and this great father because you write love songs for these people and you share your best moments with them on the internet. And deep down, I know that's not true, but like I've talked to my wife about it even. Like, I know nobody really thinks I'm perfect, but I do think we have a tendency to show and believe extremes online or even just professionally, you know. And I think there's a way of doing that where you're putting your best foot forward, and I only want to share something if it's gonna help people, which is why sometimes I talk about depression, but other times I purposely share the thing that's gonna make people smile or make them laugh or maybe even feel inspired or whatever. But people do have a tendency to just pick one or the other. Either everything's perfect and we only share cropped, edited, color-corrected photos of the best meal we had this month when we were dressed up and looking our best and all this stuff. Or people go the other way and they share too much and they only expose like their worst moments to people. And it's, I don't want to judge it, but I'm told by these people that it's, you know, to be open and real and honest. And I have long believed that anything that is just one thing is not honest or real. But where I come down on it is like, I want to share my best moments because those are also the ones I want to remember. But at the same time, I don't want to feel like my life is a lie if I have a bad moment. I have said and done some things in traffic that would horrify you people. You know what I mean? Like, I've been at a bar and some guy said something to my wife and all the peace and the love and the folk songs just right out the door. And I feel bad about it afterwards a little. Not that much, but you know, I make mistakes as a dad and I drop the ball as a husband and sometimes as a friend or as a bandmate or any number of things. And I don't really know what I'm getting at. I just hope that like we can get to a point where we can acknowledge every part of ourselves and decide to what extent we want to share them. And I think to a degree, we've all become an audience because everybody has some kind of platform if they want it. You know, if you want, you can have 4 different social media profiles and people will look at them. And in that way, we're all someone's audience. And I think as an audience, we can make the decision to let people share what they want to share, but know that like that's not the whole of a person, you know. But it is what I'm aiming for, and I never make up stories. I know a lot of people think that like there's this internet meme going around that the stories people tell about their kids are fake, or like your kid didn't really say that. Mine always did. The only thing I change if I share an Oliver story is occasionally I will shorten it, like take off the beginning or the end, and sometimes I have to clean up his language because I don't care about words and stuff. And as such, occasionally he'll say something that like, let's not tell everyone you said that. And don't say it in front of your mom. I still have this old-timey, vaguely Southern, like, don't cuss in front of your mama. We're not going to have that. And I just teach him to be respectful and to understand, like, some people are comfortable with some things and some people aren't. And don't get yourself into trouble because you can't mind your mouth. And of course, there's hateful words that have no room in the house. But that's never been an issue with him because he's a little angel and he always will be. So yeah, I guess to sum up, I would say put your best foot forward. don't necessarily feel the need to share all of your bad moments unless you think they'll help. And, don't make dinosaurs. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. What do we have? 5 movies pointing out that, it's a terrible idea. It's never, ever gone well. The Jurassic Park series is not, 5 2-hour-long rom-coms. It's a bad idea. And maybe once in a while, just keep computers out of it altogether. I had a wonderful weekend, and I did not take a single picture. My wife got a couple, and I was glad for that because, it's fun. I think there's a way of sharing the good parts of your life that can also be, communal and, I don't know, I'm aware of what people's Facebook feeds probably look like. And sometimes I do consciously think sometimes I will come up with something funny to say specifically because I'm sitting here going, I want to put something funny on Facebook right now. Nothing particularly funny just happened. I just know people are scrolling through everything that they're scrolling through. And sometimes it can be such a slog to get through that stuff. And I'll share something funny. But, we're all still human beings. And we make mistakes. It's like comedians. I don't assume that comedians are funny all the time. And I don't assume that, anybody's anything all the time. Because that would be silly. For now, let's play you a song. This song is from a record that has an anniversary coming up. I've been talking about it. We have something fun happening, and I'll tell you about it. It's not going to be as fun as I had hoped, but it's going to be cool. I was working on it last night, and I feel really good about it. So, this record was called Whichever Way Home. It's one of my favorite records that I've made. It has a very special place in my heart just for that time in my life and that era of the band and what we were doing, the shows that we played on this record and the songs on the record and that kind of thing. The song itself is sort of loosely about being afraid to fly. And I didn't used to be afraid to fly. I think I've said this before, but I grew up a variety of places and then landed in Wisconsin. And my dad was in Colorado the whole time. So when me and my sister would go visit him as kids, we had to fly. And it was fine. It was exciting. It was cool. We did the unaccompanied minor thing, and you get the plastic wings, and sometimes a pretty stewardess takes your 12-year-old self through the airport, and you get to hold hands. I don't think she was really into me, though. The older I get and look back on it, I think she was lying to me. But a couple years ago, about 5.5 years ago, I had to fly out to Colorado, funnily enough, to see my dad and my sister. And I had to fly because there was kind of a time crunch. And I'm in the plane over Nebraska, and that's when it hit me oh no, I'm afraid to fly. I didn't used to be afraid to fly, and all of a sudden, I'm afraid to fly. So in my head, to soothe myself, I started writing this song, just kind of quietly in my mind. And it's about being afraid to fly, and it's about those bargains that you make with the universe, the ones where you're like, oh, just land the plane safely, and I'll sell all my stuff, and I'll start working for charity, or I'll finally live the life I want to live. I'll get rid of everything, and I'll just hit the road with my family, or I'll sell off all my stuff and fully commit myself to music. And one of the things I realized was all of my bargaining involved getting rid of all my stuff. And I started to think if you're so willing to do that, maybe that's something to look into, and maybe something you should think about doing. And I'm not a minimalist by any stretch, and I don't even think I really believe in it for me personally. But I think a willingness to give up all your physical stuff sort of emphasizes that what's really important to you is the people in your life and the things you're doing with them. So I think roughly that's what this song's about. It's hard to know sometimes. And it changes each time you sing them. So for now, for today, this is called Runaway. And it's about being afraid to fly. It goes like this. Buckle to the wall, I feel it in my bones, a dull roar, carrying me home and back into your arms. I felt something start to give just above Nebraska, asking myself things I need to ask ya, like where you wanna go. If I can give it all away, I should give it all away and run away with you. I could feel you moving, calling me back home, like a wave rolling sand away from shore. Steady as we go. If I can give it all away, I should give it all away and run away with you. Hold my feet to the ground and say those things you said again. 'Cause I'm lonely now and I'm starting to feel restless, to run away with you. If I can give it all away, I should give it all away and run away with you. All right. I swear this guitar was in tune when I started this podcast 41 weeks ago. No, I meant earlier. These things happen. Part of making it through my throat experience, which is an ongoing journey, but is getting a lot better. And I've had some rehab and therapy and doing all kinds of new stuff. But part of that has been just accepting that, like, you know, in everything, you're a human being, even in performance. You know, maybe that's the theme of this episode, that, like, you try to put your best foot forward, but, you know, sometimes you're singing and you just miss a note, or you lose your breath for a second, or the guitar falls out of tune a little bit. And I'm just not that interested in perfection, not enough to truly pursue it, you know. I'd like to pursue my passion and some authenticity and that kind of thing. But I have made peace with, like, this is the voice that I have, and this is the musical ability that I have, and these are the songs that I've written, and let's chuck them out there and see what happens. In the meantime, speaking of chucking stuff out there, let me toss you some recommendations and then send you on your way. Up first, the Old 97s. This record is called Too Far to Care. The Old 97s are like an alt country band and a rock and roll band and that kind of thing. This record is one of their important ones. It's important to the genre, as is the band, and it's great. It's a classic for a reason. In the Gold House, it's special because a very, very, very young Oliver used to sing one of the songs off this record all the time, and it's an awesome song, and it's a killer song to hear a little 5-year-old sing, and I love it to this day. Like, videos will pop up of him singing it, and it just melts my heart. The song is called Timebomb. If you are an Old 97s fan, you know this record, you know that song. But listen to it again and remember how much it rules. And if you're not, check out Timebomb off of Too Far to Care by the Old 97s. Their singer, Rhett Miller, who we've talked about before, he's been doing live streams throughout the pandemic. And what's remarkable is he does a pay what you can thing. The minimum is a dime, which I think is pretty cool. And the other amazing thing is the number. He has done 250 as of several weeks ago. He's done more than that now. More than 250 like full sets live streamed on the internet. Like, talk about endurance. And I just love the way he talks about it. He just says, I just feel like I was put on this earth to play music for people. And that's something I relate to as well. It's one of the things I was put on this earth to do. I was also put here to love Tori and Oliver and to tell you guys about Billy Strings. This record is called Home, and it's by a guy named Billy Strings from Michigan. If you like bluegrass or you pay attention to music, you've probably heard about this record and Billy Strings. It very recently won a Grammy, which is cool. My Billy Strings story is I was at a bluegrass festival many, many, many years ago, and Billy was there, and it was so long ago. He was playing like the 2 p.m. set, like in the middle of the day, and people didn't love it, and I thought it was great. And I bought all his CDs, and at the time, it's all he had. And then a few years later, I was playing up in Michigan, and I overheard a conversation that the woman behind the bar was having, and I kind of chimed in. I said, "That sounds like you're talking about Billy Strings." And she goes, "Yeah." And I told this story about how I had seen him in Kentucky years ago, and he played a song about meth, and people didn't react to it. And he goes, "Oh, you guys don't really like the songs about meth, do you?" And everyone goes, "No." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, here's a song about meth." And he played another one. And it was funny, and it was great. And he's an otherworldly guitar player. And it turned out the woman I was talking to was his girlfriend. And now he's a Grammy Award winner. And I believe they're still together. And she travels with him, and that's pretty awesome. Check out Love Like Me. It's not even that representative of what the record sounds like, but it's a special song for me and my lady, and you should check it out. It's good. Someday we're going to do like a renewal of vows if she doesn't get sick of me before then, and I think that song will be featured. I'm excited to do a renewing of the vows when it makes sense. Maybe 20 years. We got 15 years this year. And then next year, when our relationship is 16 and old enough to drive, we're going to take an epic road trip, and that's fun. But maybe 20 years we'll renew our vows, and it'll be fun to do it as adults and do it exactly the way we want to do it. Because when you're young and you get married, your wedding gets away from you pretty quick. And our wedding was great. It's just like, in hindsight, there were things that even we chose to do that we would probably do differently now. It's gonna be fun, and maybe Billy Strings will come play. I don't know. Maybe I'll be famous. Maybe I'll be rich and I can afford to hire him. I don't think so, though. Finally, I read this book. It's called If or When I Call, and it's by Will Johnson. And if that record sounds familiar, it's because it's two of the most popular names in the world, Will and Johnson. It's also because he's a musician whose record I recommended just a couple weeks ago. He's a great songwriter, and he just announced on Instagram maybe a month ago that he had a book coming out, and my wife got it for me, and I read it in like a day and a half, and it's really good. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's just a snapshot of small town life and the struggles therein, and it does that cool thing where each chapter is written from the perspective of a person, and there's, I think, at the most 5 people. There's really 4, but there's a brief appearance of a 5th person. And I think he writes women really well. And there's a guy, 2 women, and a kid. And they all were written really, really well. And I loved the ending of the book. I won't spoil it or even give you a plot synopsis. But it ended the way I hoped it would end, and not the way I thought it would end, which is cool. And it's great. Writing songs is different than writing books, so I think people think it's similar, and in my experience, it's not. So when I come across someone who does both well, I think that's pretty neat. So check out If or When I Call by Will Johnson, and the Old 97s, and Billy Strings, and Go take a drive. It'll feel good. Just get out of town for a little bit. Go see some field. Look at some cows. Be good for you. All right. Take care. We'll see you soon. I'll have a fun announcement about a new release to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of my record, Whichever Way Home, very soon. I have some shows on the books, which we're going to announce soon. I got my second dose of the vaccine last week. A week from tomorrow, I will officially be fully vaccinated because you have to wait 2 weeks after your second shot, even though people are forgetting that. All right. I love you. Be good. Take care. Take it easy, and we'll talk soon. Bye.